please give a warm and loud CEP welcome to Matt Groh.
Thank you.
So Shelter, we're a tenant of the airport. We provide all the services for the general aviation, military, and maybe one day commercial operations out of here. It's kind of cliche, but everybody's, we're one big happy family, which we are. We all work together really well. We work with Chef Jeremy, we work with Matt and his team, and we have a great environment that helps with the day-to-day. Everything's just so easy. Anytime we have something out of the ordinary happen, we can all just pick up and run with it because we know how to work with each other.
Summer of Elevation 89, we're a restaurant that we kind of came in here about 4 years ago and wanted to create something that was significant to Ocala and kind of a spot that people would want to visit and make a stop when they came into Ocala. Our partnership with the airport is, I think, phenomenal. We work together to, whether it's planes coming in and catering on for them or customers coming in and just creating something special for Ocala that other places don't have. We work really, really well together, whether it's, city meetings or caterings or, just promoting each other. I love being part of it. I love being, I feel very humbled and privileged to be part of something that is so unique and that not a lot of places have. And Elevation 89 and our restaurant group is just proud to be part of something for the city and for the people of Ocala.
PRP Aviation is a veteran-founded aviation organization that specializes in essentially one-stop shopping for people who want to travel in a Cirrus aircraft. When PRP Aviation was in its infancy, we were home based here at Ocala with 3 families that wanted to own an airplane. We looked at a lot of different airports, and one of the things we found was that the Ocala International Airport, mostly because of its leadership, but also with the support of the city, it's very business friendly. So they made it the most inviting location for us to start this business. And we went from renting a T-hangar and owning an airplane privately to we now have 27,000 square feet of hangars, several acres worth of leases, and a multi-million-dollar company. And it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the Ocala Airport. Aviation is definitely at a turning point. When we look at where we started 110 years ago to where we are today, to where we start looking at electric air vehicles and the complexity of freedom of access with people operating aircraft, whether they're conventional aircraft or these new electrical eVTOLs, the skies are going to get nothing but more crowded. 40 years from now, I think the aviation space is going to be very, very different. It'll probably look something like the Jetsons.
Good morning. Bear with me 1 second. Hey, Meta, take a picture. Awesome. Okay. All right. So thank you to the CEP for inviting me this morning, and thanks to everybody for taking time out of your schedules to join us as well. I hope you enjoyed that opening video. Most people don't get to see the Ocala Airport from that perspective. From the air, you begin to appreciate not just the airport itself, but how much our entire community has grown around it. What you see are neighborhoods expanding, businesses being built, and new opportunities taking shape. It's a reminder that the airport doesn't exist on an island. It exists as part of a community that's growing faster than almost anyone could imagine. Now, before we officially depart on this morning's journey, I want to answer a question that I hear more than anything else, and I'm sure you can guess what it is. When are we going to get airline service? It's a fair question. For many people, it's how they judge whether an airport is successful. If there aren't passenger jets lined up at the terminal, they assume the airport hasn't reached its full potential. Today, this morning, I'd like to challenge that way of thinking. because commercial airline service is only one small part of what modern airports do. Frankly, the decision isn't ours to make. Airlines decide where they fly. They study passenger demand, route profitability, aircraft availability, competition around surrounding airports, and long-term business strategy. So we can help them in their decision by obtaining some of that data that we were just previously spoke about. But communities don't simply request airline service and then receive it. The airlines determine if a market fits their network. Now, could commercial service become part of Ocala's future? Absolutely. As our population grows and our economy expands, those conversations become more realistic. We're always willing to have those conversations with those airlines, but here's what I'd like everyone to understand. Commercial airline service isn't the finish line. It's not the only measure of a successful airport. In many ways, it's yesterday's conversation, because aviation itself is changing. It's changing much faster than most people realize. Today's conversation isn't simply about where airplanes fly. It's about how aviation is being transformed. Electric aircraft, vertical takeoff aircraft, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, those aren't ideas that are 50 years away. Many of them are flying today. If you look at China, they're flying autonomous air cargo flights. They've been doing it since September 2025. They just started flying pilotless passenger flights in March of this year. In the US, everybody's laughing. In the US, these new aircraft are close to achieving FAA certification, and some are expected to enter commercial service within a few years. Which brings me to today's theme. The future of flight is closer than you think. And the question we ask ourselves every day isn't whether we're ready for today's aviation, it's whether we're preparing for tomorrow's. Because communities that prepare first are communities that will lead. So when most people hear the word airport, they immediately picture terminals and airplanes and pilots and passengers, and that's fair. This morning, think of airports a little bit differently. Think of airports as infrastructure. Just like railroads and highways, infrastructure exists to connect people and opportunity. Throughout history, communities have grown because they invested in transportation before they absolutely needed it. Railroads transformed towns and cities. The federal highway system transformed regional economies. Today, airports play that same role. They connect businesses to customers, doctors to patients, emergency responders to communities, or investors to opportunity. The airport isn't simply where airplanes land. It's where economic opportunity arrives. That's why I often say our airport isn't just an aviation facility, it's an economic platform. So as Ocala continues to grow, that platform becomes ever increasingly more valuable. So let's talk about who we are today. The Ocala Airport is owned by the City of Ocala, but we operate as a self-sustaining enterprise fund. That essentially means that the revenue derived on the airport stays on the airport. It goes to help fund infrastructure projects, operations, maintenance, grant match, things like that. We're proud to be one of Florida's FAA Part 139 certificated airports. That certification allows us to accommodate large air carrier style aircraft and maintain the highest operational standards with that certificate. We're also fortunate to have a fully staffed FAA contract air traffic control tower. Including myself, there are 6 employees overseeing the management and operations of the 1,500-acre facility. There's a select group of dedicated aviation-rated Ocala firefighters that provide emergency services out there, and all combined, this enhances the safety and improves efficiency of the airport operation. So every year, our airport handles tens of thousands of operations. So last year, we logged 110,000 operations, or 300 daily operations. One takeoff is one operation, one landing is one operation. That's how they count it. A touch and go may be 2, a bad landing 3 or 4. There's a part of me that wanted to ditch the speech and just use the platform to start my stand-up career, but I love aviation too much. So think about what those operations represent. Every takeoff and landing tells a story. It might be a physician, it might be a business executive, an equestrian. It might be a family-owned company flying in and out of the airport, a daughter or son visiting parents. Could be a military or law enforcement mission. It could be an air ambulance flight, or it could be a training flight. Behind every flight is a business decision, a community connection, or an opportunity exploited. Those aircraft movements represent economic activity. So why does the airport matter? Every community wants new businesses and high-paying jobs. They also want investment, but those things don't happen by accident. Companies evaluate communities every day. They compare workforces, taxes, education, housing, and transportation. Transportation often becomes one of those deciding factors. Those companies ask themselves, can executives reach us? Can our customers reach us? Can supplies move efficiently? Can we grow here? And those questions matter. The CEP spends every day promoting Ocala as an outstanding place to invest. They recruit employers and support existing businesses like yourselves. They market our community across the country. At the airport, one part of our job is to make sure the transportation infrastructure supports that mission. Think about the industries that have made Marion County successful: the equine industry, healthcare, manufacturing, construction, distribution, and tourism. These industries don't simply benefit from aviation, many actually thrive and depend on it. And that's one reason Ocala continues to attract investment. Businesses know they can connect to customers, suppliers, and opportunities through infrastructure that's in place or that's planned for. Next slide. Okay. So the image that you see depicts the aviation and the non-aviation properties available at the airport. There are over 400 acres of aviation properties and 400 acres of non-aviation properties. The non-aviation properties are real important because activation of those sites will provide revenue to the airport that will go to support the aviation mission. So all the shaded areas, this is State Road 40 right here, north is to the right. These are all the non-aviation properties along State Road 40. We've got interior sites here and all the way down close to 38th Avenue. And then all the aviation properties are all the light-colored green and the dark-colored green hangars and West Side development. So those non-aviation properties are incredibly important. We're doing what we can to market those and advertise those, and like I said, to activate those. So what does the future look like and where are we headed? So before I answer that question, I'd like to point out something that's easy to overlook. The airport you see today didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen by chance. Every runway improvement, every apron expansion, every hangar, every investment in safety, they've all been part of a long-term strategy because airports must think differently than almost any other industry. Airport infrastructure often takes decades or more to plan, from concept to completion. So by the time you realize you need a new taxiway or a new runway or additional aircraft parking, you're already behind. And that's why planning is so important. Next slide. There we go. One of our biggest responsibilities is preparing today for needs that may not fully materialize for another 10 or 20 years. And that requires vision, it requires partnerships, and it requires a lot of funding. So one of the greatest strengths we've had at the airport is our ability to leverage state and federal funding, grant funding, to support local infrastructure. Every grant we receive represents an investment in Marion County. These dollars allow us to improve our airport while reducing the financial burden on local taxpayers. Since 2005, the city has secured over $38 million in FAA and FDOT grant dollars that supported $47 million in aviation projects. We couldn't accommodate the incredible growth that we've experienced over the past 10 years without those grant dollars supporting those projects. We'll continue to pursue every federal and state grant because they prepare us for opportunities that haven't arrived yet. Infrastructure isn't always about solving today's problems. It's also about creating opportunities for tomorrow. So when the new terminal opened in 2020, There was one flight school in the airport. Now there are 5. There was one charter service, and now there are 3. The old restaurant had 25 seats. The new one, Elevation 89. Who all's eaten at Elevation 89? Yay, thank you. The new one has 100 seats, and you really should reserve ahead on Open Table. The city's wrapping up its 2026 master plan update. That effort is reflected above me. It addresses the current capacity issues and using today's data extrapolates a forecasted need over the next 10 to 20 years. So I'm going to point out a few things on here. This large area, so if you're familiar with the new terminal, that's right here on the map. 60th Avenue, State Road 40, north is to the right. This large development of aviation properties here, this represents our West Side hangar campus. Could be future FBO, fixed-based operators. It's basically a gas station for airplanes. That's what that acronym means. The FAA is full of acronyms. Corporate hangars, it could be maintenance, repair, and operations hangars. We're showing a electric vehicle hub in this location. We're relocating the crosswind runway, shown here. We're relocating that into a parallel runway right here. We're actually reserving property for a future permanent air service terminal. And while the master plan didn't specifically address airlines, we do on a limited capacity just by making sure that it'll fit somewhere within the puzzle. Next slide. So let's talk about something that I think is incredibly exciting. The aviation industry will change over the next 20 years. The aviation industry will change more over the next 20 years than it has in the previous 50. Many of us grew up watching the Jetsons. I wanted to walk out to the theme song to the Jetsons so bad. I did, but we couldn't justify the licensing fee. But flying cars, vehicles lifting straight into the air, transportation that seemed impossible. Back then, it felt like pure science fiction. Today, it's literally engineering. So companies around the world are investing billions of dollars into what we call advanced air mobility. You may have also heard the term eVTOL. It stands for electric vertical takeoff aircraft, takeoff and landing aircraft. Think of them as the next generation of aviation. They're quieter, they're more efficient. They're powered by electricity or a hybrid mix of jet fuel and hydrogen rather than traditional aviation fuel. Instead of needing a long runway, many of these are operating off of facilities that are 1,000 to 500 feet in length. And that's numbers are relative, right? So to put it in perspective, the main long runway at the Ocala airport is 8,400 feet long. Imagine boarding an aircraft of 4 or 8 seats and lifting off vertically out of Ocala and flying to Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, or wherever in far less time than it takes to drive. That is the mission of those aircraft. So this that you're seeing right now, this isn't a scene from a movie, this is real. Companies like Joby, Archer, Beta, Electra, Eve, and Whisk are already flight testing these aircraft. Excuse me. Some have completed thousands of successful test flights. Several are moving through the FAA certification process as we speak. Commercial operations are expected to begin within the US within the next few years. Uber has partnered with Joby, one of these aircraft manufacturers, to study rideshare programs. Joby has partnered with Toyota to help solve manufacturing issues because the demand for these aircraft is going to be enormous and worldwide. Remember, it was only 11 years ago that SpaceX was learning how to land rockets vertically. Now look at them. That's where we are. The future isn't decades away. It's already taking shape. And airports across the country are beginning to prepare. The question isn't whether these aircraft are coming. The question is, will we be ready when they arrive? Okay. These new technologies are here, and I wanted to point this out. This is the new Cirrus. Well, it's not new, but this is the Vision Jet, single engine, single pilot operation, very roomy inside. This person is pushing a big red button. It's not eject, right in the top center of the cockpit. right? It's not the eject button. It's the auto land feature. If for some reason in this aircraft, if the pilot becomes incapacitated or for whatever reason they need to land, somebody can push that button, the airplane takes over. It makes the radio calls, it talks to air traffic control, finds the nearest airport, and if it's bad weather, it flies the approach into a landing, lands the aircraft, speaks to the passengers, advises them how to safely exit the vehicle, the aircraft, and it will also alert and speak to the emergency crews on how and teach them how to safely shut down the engine. So these technologies are already here. Aviation is transitioning. Next slide. Thank you. Aviation is transitioning, and Ocala has an opportunity to lead. Our responsibility isn't to predict or adapt to every technology perfectly. It's to build an airport that's adaptable, flexible, scalable, and ready. Readiness has become the foundation of our long-term vision. When we talk about the airport development today, we're thinking beyond traditional aviation. We're asking questions like, do we have the electrical infrastructure to support electric aircraft? Are we preserving land for future aviation uses? Can our facilities accommodate emerging technologies? How do we position Ocala to compete with other metropolitan areas? Those are the conversations happening today. And they're happening because aviation is evolving. The communities that prepare early won't simply keep pace. They will lead. And I believe Ocala has every opportunity to be one of those communities that lead because we're willing to think ahead. We're willing to invest strategically, and we're willing to prepare before everyone else recognizes the opportunity. That's how our community gains competitive edge and advantage. So in the management of the airport, everything we're doing can be summarized into 4 priorities that will guide us over the next decade and beyond. The first is business and industrial development. We mentioned activation of those non-aviation and aviation properties. Every new business creates jobs, supports local contractors, they generate economic activity, and they support and strengthen the tax base. Those revenues from those non-aviation opportunities will fund those aviation needs. The second, air service and connectivity. This doesn't simply mean solely commercial airlines. Connectivity is much broader than that. It's about ensuring that businesses can reach Ocala efficiently. It's about supporting corporate aviation. It's about making our community more accessible for investment. It's about giving companies confidence that transportation will never become a barrier to growth. What this means is being able to accommodate and be flexible with commercial airlines, advanced air mobility, eVTOL, and general aviation concurrently, safely, and efficiently. So, can we go back? So I wanted to point this. I shot this picture. This is 2017. This is a Delta 757. Flew in. They dropped off Tennessee football, who ultimately lost to the Gators 26-20. But the point is, these aircraft can fly in and land at Ocala right now. The third pillar, advanced air mobility and eVTOL. These technologies that we just discussed aren't replacing traditional aviation. They're expanding what's possible. As these aircraft become commercially viable and available, communities that have prepared will have a tremendous advantage. We want Ocala to be one of those communities. And then finally, the fourth pillar, infrastructure and capacity expansion. So everything begins with infrastructure. Runways, taxiways, aprons, hangars, even technology. Without infrastructure, none of those opportunities become possible. That's why we continue to pursue every available grant and funding opportunity that comes our way. Every investment we make today creates flexibility tomorrow, and flexibility creates opportunity. And if you remember one thing from today's presentation, I hope it's this, is that infrastructure doesn't create headlines, it creates possibilities. And that's exactly what we're building at the Ocala Airport. So if that's the vision, what does success actually look like? The most difficult part of this job isn't speaking to 400 of my business peers and friends and neighbors. It's not making sure that the right readers are on my head to read the notes. That was actually a thing. It's addressing the requirements of those 4 pillars. while ensuring that aviators, like the gentleman giving the thumbs up and that yellow Piper Cub up there, continue to thrive. That's how I'll measure success. So thank you for your time. Thank you to the CEP for the invitation to be here. It really has been a wonderful experience, and I hope to see you at the airport soon.